Last week, we learned that the much-discussed Allergan-Pfizer merger is really happening, with owners of Allergan getting 11.3 shares of Pfizer for every 1 share of Allergan. Even though I think this is a very smart deal, Charitable Trust owns Allergan, one that will give Pfizer a tremendous pipeline of new drugs, along with a lower Irish corporate tax rate, the market initially seemed pretty skeptical. Allergan stock initially selling off as investors wondered, what's in it for them? Since then, Allergan's rebounded, but there's still a lot of questions about how this transaction will reward the company's shareholders, given that Allergan has so much going for it on its own. Stock got hammered today, down nearly $6. However, I think we got to remember that Allergan CEO Brent Saunders has done a tremendous job of creating value, and he wouldn't have agreed to do this deal if he didn't think it was a good one. So let's go straight to the source and check in with Brent Saunders, the bankable president and CEO of Allergan, in order to get a sense of what his company's future looks like now that it's being bought by Pfizer or merging with Pfizer, depending how you feel. Mr. Saunders, welcome back to Mad Money. Good to see you, Brent.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Have a seat. All right, Brent, now I have to tell you, I have tremendous respect for what you put together, and mostly because you made a fortune for people. So my first reaction was like, I want Brent. I don't want Pfizer. Brent gets me to 400 because he's traced out an amazing vision for Allergan, particularly when the balance sheet gets better from the Teva money, or to perhaps have an acquisition of your own. So why do I like this deal more than Brent Allergan?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for our shareholders. The way I like to think about it, it's taking our growth pharma engine and putting it on a larger chassis called Pfizer. And look, we could have gotten to 400 on our own, but this takes us well beyond that for the foreseeable future. And so the deep pipeline of Pfizer, the combination of the global footprint and the strength in areas like immuno-oncology and vaccines make this a powerhouse in biopharmaceuticals.
At the same time, your franchises, aesthetic, dermatological, GI, women's health, neurology, unassailable franchises.
Absolutely.
Why would I get excited about Pfizer's vaccine business or anti-cancer business when I see such great growth? And by the way, I see the incredible the proposals that you do about the way you grow pharmaceuticals, so different from traditional Pfizer.
Yeah, but look, Ian Reid in the last 4 years has done a remarkable job of transforming Pfizer. He's done things like the Zoetis spinoff, Capsugel. He has really revamped their entire R&D approach and very productive, looking at immuno-oncology, vaccines, rare diseases. And when you think about it from an Allergan shareholder perspective, you get these great franchises in eye care and aesthetics and GI, and now you merge them with leading franchises in CNS and immuno-oncology, one of the hottest areas in pharmaceuticals, rare diseases, and vaccines. And so now you have all the top growth markets, not just a few of them, but all of them.
But does he embrace open sciences, which you have made us feel is such a difference maker for Allergan?
He does. And what makes our open science model even more formidable in this combination is you get really strong discovery capabilities with a mindset of open science. In fact, Pfizer announced today with heparinase for some really interesting early molecules. They're doing open science already.
Okay. Now let's look at what you get if you own shares. You get a pretty big chunk. 44% of the company, even though the earnings for interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization is not nearly as big as Pfizer. So in that way, you did pretty good for shareholders.
Well, I think it's a great deal for our shareholders. Okay. You get kind of some rough numbers, 44% ownership in the pro forma company. You contribute roughly about 25% of the revenue and roughly around 30% of the earnings before interest and tax and amortization.
Okay, will we have the possibility, when you look at what they did with Zoetis, I'm glad you brought that up. Pfizer has a history of creating value within value. Pfizer made another acquisition on its own. You've made acquisitions. Could there be multiple companies buried within where lots of value could be brought out?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the future options for more value creation. You have an innovative business combined with Allergan that now is, I think, the most exciting dynamic biopharmaceutical company in the world, for all the reasons we just discussed. You have an established products division that really is like a consumer company around the world, branding generics. And in 2018, we'll make a decision around splitting those. And if we do, what another opportunity to create value for shareholders.
Cash flow?
Cash flow, very strong. We're talking about $25 billion roughly in 2018.
Possibility, I know the board has decided that Pfizer's dividend could always be boosted. They have some of that tremendous cash flow.
Absolutely. They've been very committed to the dividend.
Right.
If you look at the track record under Ian Reid, they consistently have increased that dividend year over year. I expect the dividend policy to mainly stay intact. Obviously, a question for the board of directors, but should stay intact.
At one point, I was hoping that when you got that $40 billion in, that you could take a look at a giant biotech that is underperforming and maybe buy that. That has to be off the table.
Yeah, so, we did look at that. We looked at what else could we do.
Okay,
and put actionability aside, right, whether we could have done it or not, if somebody would have agreed. I believe strongly that the innovative business, combining Allergan with the innovative business of pharma, is the best marriage for Allergan shareholders versus doing some other deal. This becomes a powerhouse of innovation in the biopharmaceutical.
Some people have told me, well, listen, the reason why Brent had to do that is because in a political environment, charged environment, he can no longer raise prices and do the things that he was doing with before Allergan, and that game's over, so he gave up.
No, absolutely not. Nothing wrong with our business, nothing wrong with the business model, and nothing wrong with the environment. We were always responsible price takers. You and I talked about the social contract we believe we had.
Although you can and did have the right to raise Botox because that's not part of the social contract. I mean,
it's the best deal in medicine.
Right? I mean, Botox in a totally cosmetic way, you had every right to raise prices, and I know you have, and been taking share, I believe, from Valiant because of the problems at Valiant.
Absolutely. And look, we've always been responsible price takers. Botox therapeutically is the best deal in medicine.
Right.
Aesthetically, it's priced the same. And so, we are very cautious about raising price there because consumers pay out of pocket.
Right. Now, okay, last thing. Is Brent Saunders going to stay with the combined company?
Absolutely. And not only am I staying, but all the reports around the kind of money that I may make and whatnot, I'm rolling all my stock into Pfizer stock. I'm not cashing out one share or one option. I'm all in because I'm a believer. All
right, there you go. That's Brent Saunders, the president and CEO of Allergan. Charitable Trust owns it. We're holding it. Count me a believer, too. Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.